Dzień dobry Państwu.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to start our panel, Innovation in Mobility, Discovering Strategies for the Future. We'll talk about vehicles, autonomous vehicles, or what's expecting us pretty soon, about the future revolution in transport, mobility, economy. We live in interesting times, whether we like it or not, whether it's good or not. A lot of things are happening. There is some psychological research saying that today's youth and children get more stimuli in a day than their grandparents had in their lives. We have problems with coping with that, but the gentlemen who are here and our online guests, the speakers I'm going to introduce, will tell us about a narrow yet pretty important section of the future, that is autonomous vehicles and the upcoming revolution. So we will talk how our life is going to change in our lifetime. The fact that our children and grandchildren will live differently is pretty obvious, but the fact that we are going to live a different life is not that clear, even though the revolution may affect us. The guests today are, next to me, Dariusz Fabisiak. He is the CEO of AMZ Kutno, also the owner of the company, a graduate of international relations studies. He manufactures vehicles also for the military. He produces and exports. The company is seated in the Łódzkie region, but the company conquers foreign markets. So we are a Polish company, just to clarify, that's the essence. Next to him, Grzegorz Śląski, PhD. Ślaski, that's the correct name. The Institute of Machinery Construction and the Poznań University of Technology, head of the design department for vehicles and machinery. He deals with modeling and mechatronic control of vehicles mechanics, over 100 scientific publications. Let me add that for 8 years I've been the supervisor of a sports team at the Poznań University of Technology, dealing with student Formula bullets. Last year they built an autonomous bullet. Well, we are at the first stage, but we can see also in the competition for young engineers that autonomous vehicles, so no longer Robert Kubica for us. We'll have a team to control the vehicle. Well, during the race, it should work on its own without the team. Next to him, Professor Jarosław Mamala, from the Chair of Vehicles at the Opole University of Technology. He deals with broadly understood automotive industry, R&D, an expert in projects financed by the state agencies. Also rich experience from the automotive industry. He has worked for Volkswagen. He was the technical director in charge of selling and service of vehicles in the south of Poland. I also am a CEO of the Scientific Technopark in Opole, that also contributes to the industry. So if I wish to tell you all about my guests, so I wouldn't make it in our time. Your experience is so vast. Online, we have with us Małgorzata Darowska. There she is. Hello. Head of the Department of Sustainable Development with the PKO Bank. He is in charge of implementing digital infrastructure for public transport department. He deals with transition, green transport, green autonomous transport. Hello. Let us begin by the key question that may come to your mind. When would it happen that if we cannot drive, we can get into our car and it drives us on its own? I think there is no technological obstacle to that. It's just when and how autonomous vehicles do move around, especially in the US. But for me, the greatest barrier is the mental one in society. However we develop automotive, private, public, we always have this last mile in the head, how to transport the passengers. So if we build a social model, you spoke about young people, but young people are not attached to property. They will not care. So whether they drive their own car or rented one, they will use the cars. But you will need infrastructure for that. Due to digital security in the US, the autonomous vehicles stopped along the roads because the servers were infected. So plenty of technological challenges, but in terms of technology, it's no issue at all. So we can, but we are not ready yet. Well, we have regulations that in 2025, until 2025, no autonomous vehicle can move around in the EU. Well, the regulations are supposed to be updated. We've got this partial autonomous driving, like autonomous parking, but still it's the user's awareness that poses the most significant challenge. When we think of this mental challenge, we do not think about customers. The technology is so pushing us forward, impacts the environment, impacts our lives. So we speak of technology or world of two technologies. We have the US, Japan, Canada, who are highly saturated with mobility of vehicles. So the four-person family have 3 vehicles. In terms of infrastructure, we don't need more vehicles in Poland, but we need to work on the quality of vehicles. On the average, Polish car is 17 years old. But the development of automotive mobility should not be perceived through those countries only. We have other countries in the world. Well, that's still ahead of us. The countries will be running after us and will be reducing own vehicles in favor of rented ones. Director, are you with us? Yes, we are. I'll be back in view. So, Dr. Śląski, the same question. Are we ready for this revolution? What should happen? Because when we think of autonomous vehicles, it's like in a film with Arnold Schwarzenegger, where there were taxis driven by robots. On the other hand, autonomous vehicles also include trucks and lorries, things that will change businesses. They will happen, and truck drivers may lose their jobs. These are challenges ahead of us. What is this future going to look like? Well, what it's going to look like would require a crystal ball, but what we can see, observe, the first demonstrations of the Google vehicle in 2012 presented scenarios of a person with impaired sight, with like 10% of sight, and the car would drive the person to the desired destination. But today, there is no vehicle in the market that can drive us fully autonomously. There is partial autonomy. I think now it's Tesla and Cadillac that offer a solution when in selected situation, in some roads that are precisely mapped, the car can drive without holding your hands on the steering wheel, but still keeping your attention focused on the road. The problems appear in more complex situations, bad weather conditions, no proper road infrastructure, because it's easy to develop software that would run on roads with well-painted lines, but it fails where there are no lines, where the infrastructure is poor. So I believe, well, in fact, I've heard some opinions of a large Chinese corporation. That person said that full autonomy is a dead end. We can only expect partial autonomy with highly extended driver support system, and I believe this is pretty realistic approach. However, you must not exclude, moreover, you should hope that autonomous vehicle will serve us in public transport. It is even happening now, but whether that vehicle can drive for us fully in every single possible situation, there is no clear answer to that. I just want to say that in the 1960s there were first tests of vehicles on the roads with special markers, and there were visions that in 2000 all the vehicles would be autonomous, and as we see, it is still moved onwards, but we see more and more functions that help us in driving. Professor mentioned the advanced systems to support drivers. They are more and more advanced. They help us and provide data for further development of such systems. Indeed, we are talking about cars, but there is the underground that drives on its own, stops at the precise moment, the door opens at the precise location. It's just one more step to replace the driver who may no longer be needed. Planes, it's quite a different situation. The pilot, in fact, only controls the plane during the takeoff and landing. I know pilots who, when flying to the US, they take a laptop with 3 films because there is 9 hours of doing nothing. They are there because they have to be there. But in fact, the plane is flying on its own, but it's difficult to compare it to the situation on the ground.
Would you like to comment on it? Yes, I would like to add one more fact that I discovered through the results of surveys about the readiness to buy an autonomous vehicle. The number of people willing to buy such a vehicle decreased between 2021 and 2023. It's between 10 and 25%. So this is not no, in 2020 it was 11.30, then it dropped to around 9%, and I think it was because of the accidents that happened. Initially, people were delighted and then more skeptical. Right, we heard about Tesla cases from the USA. Right, it's a kind of fear similar to comparing driving a car and flying a plane. Statistically, for accidents, planes are safer as for cars. We have around 3,000 people dying in car accidents in Poland, but people are not afraid of driving. However, if they were supposed to trust autonomous vehicles, they are quite skeptical, because people hear about cases of accidents, fires, and so on and so forth. This is the scale, several thousand fires of combustion engine vehicles, and people are not afraid to drive them. Yes, the same applies to electric vehicles. The scale is 20 million vehicle and several cases of fire. Once you compare it, these are not really significant numbers. Right. Just briefly? Yes, you were quite right mentioning drivers' preferences. We can talk about planes, underground, but automotive development means freedom behind the steering wheel. We decide how we are going to drive. So the phenomenon of the future will depend on whether we are able to give up our preferences. We are like the owner of our behavior in the car. Autonomous driving deprives us of this freedom.
Pani dyrektor.
So now I'm turning to Ms. Darowska. When will the revolution happen? What is it going to look like, and when are we going to be ready? Well, the revolution has already been happening. I'm not there with you because of my health condition. So today I thought it would be a great idea to have an autonomous vehicle to take me to the conference. As we have heard, we have quite a big group of autonomous vehicles, and the levels of autonomy are varied. In the most advanced levels, the machine, the vehicle, will decide where it will fly or go, which means we lose control over the vehicle. Referring to transport, I would like to point out the following thing. Transport means the entire system. Talking about social approval or the will to drive an autonomous vehicle, we perceive it from our own perspective. Considering systemic implementation of autonomous vehicles, this is a system. Such vehicles without a system are not really likely to be successfully implemented. Hence, we have a number of pilot programs. On the one hand, we've got autonomous vehicles, and on the other hand, the digital infrastructure facilitating their moving around. 2 years ago, European mobility strategy focused the need to develop digital infrastructure. It's not only about zero-emission vehicles, which is a significant contribution to climate objectives. Autonomization and automation is also ranked highly among the priorities. Nothing will happen without digital infrastructure, however. The infrastructure has become more advanced. For the last few years, I've been dealing with quite a complex issue, namely aviation, which is quite safe. How we approach autonomous traffic, mentally it is similar to our approach to airplanes 100 years ago. Now it is considered the safest means of transport. At present, we have pilot programs, and the awareness that we implement both the vehicles and the infrastructure, as the infrastructure allows for development and implementation of the whole autonomous transport system. Every manufacturer of vehicles will give a part of the risk and costs related to autonomous traffic implementation to public administration that is responsible for the infrastructure. That's the entire system, and it has already been happening. First and foremost, considering urban centers, we need to remember that they are the ones where such means of transport are implemented. Depending on the place in Europe, the approach varies. Autonomous vehicles are promoted along with zero-emission transport simultaneously. Recently, I analyzed public transport in Copenhagen, quiet traffic zones, autonomous underground trains, and a lot of bicycles. There are lots of different concepts, however, we are ready for the revolution. The revolution goes hand in hand with zero-emission transport. They develop simultaneously. European and global policies promote zero-emission transport, meaning more and more automated, assuming that we want to be climate neutral by 2050. So let me ask the following question. Since the European Union focuses on automation and autonomous vehicles, is there a plan what to do with the people working in the transport sector nowadays? We know there are shortages of bus and truck drivers now. Perhaps in 10 or 15 years perspective, the situation might change dramatically, meaning that we'll have too many drivers and half of the people working for transport might be made redundant. Do the people who develop strategies have answers to such issues? Actually, I have to say that demography is quite brutal, although I have not analyzed the human resources aspect. Now we've got shortages of drivers and different solutions are looked for. In 20, 30 years' time, when we become older, we'll be looking for new methods of moving around. Considering our Polish perspective, we need to decide which place in the value chain we hold. We can say what our interests in the entire revolution are. If we take advantage of the transformation situation, meaning we are the producers of the means of transport, and we implement them and not only consume the results, the jobs will be available in highly skilled positions, which poses great opportunities. However, it is all on condition that adequate conditions are created. We've got the same conclusions from each industrial revolution. Some jobs are replaced, but new ones emerge. There has never been a technological revolution that would cause systemic unemployment. So I think it's a matter of perspective. Right, but there are always some social concerns. Let us only remind destruction of steam machines in England. Can we expect drivers destroying autonomous vehicles? Perhaps not. But now I'm asking our next speaker. It's about revolution that will happen sooner or later. I would like to ask you about special vehicles of different kinds, and you specialize in them. Those that you produce, can they see the revolution results earlier? No, I suppose the revolution will happen in transportation earlier than in special vehicles. For example, when it comes to ambulances, we have teams of paramedics, and we are not ready. We do not have solutions that will allow for an ambulance to go independently to the patient to save their lives. We still need people. But some autonomous systems have been implemented in ambulances, and they are supposed to help paramedics, physicians by sending information to hospitals. In the old vehicles, no systems were available of that kind, helping save life. Now we are having more and more systems sending data directly to hospitals to respond faster and to save lives faster. I don't really know what it can look like. Perhaps ambulances will be available for going somewhere independently and taking the patient, but we need to remember that very often police, ambulance or fire brigades operate in emergency situations. We can teach the vehicle how to drive, how to respond to weather conditions, but the emergency situations will be diversified and challenging. I'm not saying it's impossible, but the autonomy is not full. Trucks can be autonomous, and that's great. I suppose it's going to be good, and especially from the point of view of safety, and we'll need fewer police persons working at the roads, and we'll not need many people working for road inspection services. As we have heard from the previous speakers, some jobs disappear. We have fewer welders than we used to have. We've got welding robots, but we need programmers. Young people nowadays know how to handle tablets. They don't really know what a bolt or what a screw is, but they know how to program a CNC machine, a robot, how to design a mold, how to develop software. Young people are born with these skills. Children who are 3 years old know how to install an app very often. The autonomy has penetrated into production. We have fewer people who are blue-collar workers, but more technologists and programmers who program machines producing components for vehicles. Coming back to the first part of the question, I cannot see any possibility of eliminating humans in saving people's life or responding in emergency situations, but we'll definitely see more systems facilitating the work of police persons, firefighters, and paramedics. What about the technological opportunities? If we collaborate with those who determine the conditions, then we are more likely to win. Can we do it? Do we have possibilities? Will we manage? Yes, indeed. From the technological point of view, we are ready. I would like to mention one more example. In my opinion, we should carry out research and development. Without research, development, testing, implementation of new technologies, transferring new technologies, and collaborating on the European or global level, transferring the know-how, the process will proceed much faster. Otherwise, we'll not be able to handle various components or develop the infrastructure because we won't have data, how to program a vehicle, how to check it in specific conditions, and how to respond in emergency situations. I suppose we are ready, but we need to continue research and development. Companies like mine carry out research and development, but I suppose scientific institutions contribute a lot to such development. We often cooperate with scientific institutions that provide us with purely scientific feedback. Production and science, industry and science. It's difficult, but doable. Right. Are you ready to support business? I don't mean Poland can become a leader easily, but simply shouldn't lose the track. Technologically, we know how to do it. The industry knows how to do it, and the cooperation has been happening. In addition to technology, the legal aspects, certification, will be pivotal. As we have heard, companies are ready to transfer their responsibility for the product, but who should take it over? If we talk about previous generation vehicles, it was a collection of solutions, of fixed solutions. The number of accidents was quite identified. When we talk about OpenAI, for instance, it's a completely different approach to AI. It is vector-based programming, which is endless. The algorithm invents the limits that the networks are supposed to reach. Therefore, the question is, who shall be responsible for it? There is a new creation that invents the algorithm. I'm sure you watched Terminator. We can make jokes, but that's the question of safety, security, and responsibility. But the issue, the ethical issue of our own security. You mentioned fires of electric vehicles, which are not very common cases. There was a rumor some time ago that the military drone decided to kill the operator, feeling that the operator limited it. It was published, it was so commonly announced in the media. The question is it possible to ensure our security?
In terms of technology, yes. A professor from Austria gave some examples of the development of autonomousness. But I need to touch on another issue. We speak about the development of autonomous systems because we speak that we will make zero-emission vehicles for that purpose. But again, zero-emission vehicles, how? Would it be electrical, hydrogen? What about the other systems filling in? That plot has many aspects. In terms of technology, I see no obstacles whatsoever. Grzegorz Szlaski, cybersecurity, as we may name it. How far the development we are expecting to happen soon, is it going to affect us, make us feel safe? Is it that the AI is going to kill us? Is it realistic? Well, I don't know if that's the most important issue regarding cybersecurity. I'd rather look at a different aspect, the security of software, hardware, so that operates as the designers assumed. Since 2021, we have had two regulations, one on cybersecurity on the level of development, production, and use of software systems in vehicles. The other one is on the security of updates for the systems. These documents are very interesting, and they show we have systematized knowledge about possible threats And there was also a survey among small companies that deal with producing vehicles and their attitude to cybersecurity, and we see that is a true challenge for the industry to have well-qualified staff to deal with such issues. These are very, very complex matters regarding cryptology in software security, involving software updates. We know that updates are pretty frequent, and those who wish to use such software in a dishonest way also are quick learners. And small companies, well, they slowly cannot cope with providing proper human potential to deal with that. On the other hand, we have those huge players in the market, suppliers of components, who shall win by offering such solutions. So what your question is, how far can it get out of control? It's I think less important problem than people who have bad intentions and can use what is already available. It's not the first instance of the Tesla. Also, Jeep had an issue where you could prove that sitting on your couch, you could stop the car at a motorway, and they had to recall 1.4 million vehicles to fix the software, because through infotainment system you could access the driving control system. So the safe use of technology is the essence. Safe and secure. Well, the English, well, meaning protection against unauthorized access. So it would rather be security. Madam, a question to you about safety and security also, and threats regarding automation and autonomous systems, because, well, it was kind of a joke if AI is going to kill us, but the true threats that come up, they regard more daily matters. Somebody may take over the control, something may stop working, we will not be able to use the vehicles we shall have. Is there a solution for that? Is anybody planning that? Will that security be guaranteed? Well, I'd like to appeal for a serious understanding of the topic, transport and safety security, the policy of developing autonomous transport. Wherever we discuss it, here in Europe, in the world, we need to balance. Please note that we have a situation that more and more autonomous transport. Well, we heard about this drone killing the operator, and we feed on such sensational news. And the threat I can see in introducing autonomous transport is that there shall be no proper supervision, and we'll be running after new sensations rather than thorough consideration how deeply the transport enters our reality. Certainly, we should have a policy not for AI, which anyway is being developed somewhere, but transport is very, very unique. So, a deep thought on introducing autonomous transport, certification for autonomous vehicles should happen. We need to control it here as well. Cybersecurity, well, getting back to the previous question, this is the field where we perceive the great demand for qualified people. These are very well paid jobs. So this is the perspective. So, digital security, well, for me, the autonomous transport is digital security, traceability, recognition. It's going to be easier than in the analog environment, so the traceability should be higher. What matters? Well, we should be ready for that, draw conclusions from how it operates. Well, when we think about the digital world, well, how senselessly we've approached the social media and letting children access the digital world, and we see it now, especially parents of teenagers will perceive the consequences of this uncontrolled, unaware use of the technology. So if we are now working on implementing technologies, autonomous technologies, we need to be cautious. We need to be ready not just for implementation, but also for reacting. And I believe other panelists, great scientists, will identify the issues that are critical for safe implementation of autonomous technologies in transportation. One more thing, cybersecurity. Indeed, this is a regulated environment, but pretty hermetic. The transport itself is highly regulated, a highly controlled industry. My lawyer's experience says that the general responsibility rules set for this transport are very good landmark to set liability together with the growth of technology. They usually do not change. Well, very good. We've got have such rules. We have scientists, but we have also a CEO. Again, a question about this security, but in terms of, are we ready from a practical point of view? Automation, autonomous systems are progressing. Is it going to be a real threat for us, in your opinion? Well, it is. It is all the time. We've got CCTVs, we've got alarms at home, because there are thieves. There will always be good and bad people. Systems will be hacked. That would be used, and we will protect it. We will put safeguards, and it shall be going on and on and on. You will never avoid it. There are people, and in type perspective, well, quoting the films, there was this demolition man, and there were autonomous vehicles, and the police were surprised why everybody was shouting that. Perhaps it's better than go for the Terminator. Well, we shall have the full autonomy. I can't imagine we would have AI controlling the city of Warsaw. There will be no person to do it. I see no full autonomy at all. Autonomous system, yes, I could imagine those. And we need to protect and secure the systems. We do it, yet we suffer some hacking attacks to our systems from the outside, but that's the way it is. It's going to happen. It has always been like that. The cars were slow, but people tuned them and used them to steal money from the bank and ran away. So it's a never-ending game. Yes, that's true. It will never end as long as we exist, and I assume we shall exist quite a long time. We will always have instances where bad people, abuse the powers and breach the systems. There can be hackers, there can be accidents caused due to different reasons. It's not for me to assess it today. We have about a couple of minutes. If there are any questions from the audience, it's time for you to think about it. Professor, I'd like to just comment on the cybersecurity. In my out of university work, I had the Technopark with a large server room. When we speak of autonomy, we speak about independence of data. We cannot hope that foreign corporations will provide access to such data. If you build autonomous vehicles, you will know we need to ask for access to such information. We need to have quick access to that information. So we need to work on the technical infrastructure to enhance the security. It mustn't be blocked. The systems need to be redundant, expanded, and the infrastructure involves significant expenditure. You said we are coming to the summary. When is it going to happen? We need to bear in mind that in 2030, the estimated number of vehicles in the world would go beyond 2 billion units. So if we speak of something that is supposed to be remarkable for us, and statisticians say if something significantly impacts the human, it needs to have at least 15% share in the market. Before we get to 15% share in the market, it will take more than that in time. This slow elimination of old driving technologies, introducing new ones, will take time. But we need to work on learning the good. Final comparison. 20 years ago, I worked for Volkswagen. Nobody wanted to buy an automatic gearbox vehicle. But it's a form of autonomy. Now, if you want to buy such a car, you need to pay extra for the automatic gearbox. Today, we don't have workshops. We have replacers. Something's wrong with your gearbox. You go in and don't fix it. You replace it. Obviously, the automatic gearbox are present. People are afraid. Used to be afraid of it. They didn't know how to fix that. Today, our technological level is far higher, and these are very present. And the same shall happen with automation of vehicles. There will be different systems and different specialists to deal with that. That's clear. The technology is progressing. We have new people, new challenges, new jobs will educate in that, will test research that, will create regulations for autonomous vehicles or requirements for such vehicles. It shall progress without a shadow of a doubt. It will never be stopped, but the cooperation, well, it is there, but I should say we need to run R&D to have some results, to create regulations for vehicles, for the infrastructure, for the systems, for everything. Just like we had with previous, we had Euro 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. Well, it's only based on expansion and development to improve ecological outcome, and that process shall continue. We shouldn't demonize, as the director stressed. Let us build the positive image. It shall happen. We shouldn't be afraid of the technology that an autonomous vehicle will eliminate us from life. It's like with the automatic gearbox. We enjoy driving rather than changing gears. Questions from the audience. Are there any? There is one. Good. Hello, my name is Łukasz Sejda. A more general question. A highly emotional question. What about people? If we implement automation with the autonomy, digitalization is omnipresent, should people be afraid? How to react to such challenges? What we as local authorities, because I represent the Marshal's office, how we should respond to the future, to the needs of the future lives. Well, let me begin. I wouldn't be afraid. We spoke there would be about the fact that there would be new jobs, but new jobs like data analysis, we don't have enough people for that. We subcontract data analysis to India, but we need it desperately. So let me add to the question. If we assume the revolution is going to happen in some perspective, not tomorrow, but can we educate people for that? Can we start educating the people in a different way, thinking in a certain perspective? Are we ready to tackle it in a strategic way? We shouldn't send all students to political studies. I know, because the number of students there is dropping. But isn't it that we should educate people for the revolution that may happen? I think it is happening. Not only I have 5 students in the mechanical engineering department, so it's not an easy process. We need to prepare students. There is a university that teaches for skills center. It's supposed to change the attitude, because when a student gets a difficult task, they can quit. They can abandon the studies rather than try to solve the task. So we have a society that is not ready to take up challenges, but as you asked, it's the man who creates new solutions, new technologies. We need to change our system of education, but we'll never lose all the jobs. What I could add here, answering this question, I believe that investing in the schooling system, secondary education and higher education, I have lots of people working on technical secondary schools graduates, and it often happens that the workshop or technical schools are as well equipped as companies, so the equipment is obsolete. Sometimes they will have some good stuff, but we do cooperate with the Board of Education in Kutno. We take those young guys and train them with our machinery in use. We grow faster, and education is not keeping up the pace. So investing in education, equipment, education between schools and the industry to ensure people that will help the company to develop, to expand technology, and again transfer it back to schools. This is the way we should go. We cooperate with the number of schools in Kutno and its vicinity. We take pupils for internship that take 1 month. And young people work pretty good. When it comes to CNC equipment, they work perfect. The mechanical stuff perhaps is not as good. But they say they do not have stuff like that at school. They have nothing to learn with, and connection between school and industry, investing in education. This is number one for me. It's back to history. Perhaps we will have factory technical schools. About education, believe me or not, but financing institutions carry the burden of implementing new technologies. We are the financing parties for the revolution, and we see the need of education. We need, in fact, we need to train every person in banks in different fields, digitalization, transitions, etc. But we want to impact the whole ecosystem, our customers, our suppliers. And apart from the technical knowledge, technical training, we need to pay attention to business education, developing skills for using technologies and skills to finance new business models. So it's a huge project for us, I believe. So lifelong education, something we will never escape from. Well, I agree. Education, learning, it's teaching, it's a challenge. I've seen numerous situations where education was supposed to catch up with what's happening. It's 2023. In 2012, electromobility was non-existent at Polish universities. When Nissan started to produce electrical vehicles, 5 years later, such programs started to appear at universities too late. We also have this traditional division of faculties, mechanical engineering, IT, electrical engineering. When I take care of this motorsport team, I have a team of students from all the faculties, in fact, and they know that no mechanical engineer will build a car on their own. Neither shall an IT specialist. You will need experts in mechanics who will provide the driving system, in IT, etc., etc. You need to look forward, find your opportunities. On the other hand, you should support companies who are trying to find such opportunities. I witnessed a situation, we spoke about autonomous vehicles, but a strong topic is also internet-connected vehicles. At this moment, all buses produced by Solaris transfer information on their operations in all buses. A company in Poznań teaches drivers in using other systems. They have developed an excellent truck simulator using virtual reality. They train drivers with that, then live training. And by that, they reduce fuel consumption by a few percent. There are no specialists to expand such products. At the same time, they prove it is possible. If you combine business, making money, you create jobs. As a result, you will have some sort of demand, but that requires trust from industry, investing in education without expecting a result in a month, 2 months, half a year. It's a long-term process where you sort of make blind investment in the education for those people to come to the market, and after a couple of years they will be the base to expand new companies, to start new businesses that can operate in these areas. So it's like in SWOT, we've got opportunities and threats. The question is, where shall we be there, whether we use the opportunity or not? The revolution is coming. We need to be ready on many business and financing and educational levels. All that needs to be combined to operate. Thank you very much for the participation in this panel. Małgorzata Darowska, Grzegorz Laski, Jarosław Mamala, Jarosław Bisiak. Thank you very much. A round of applause will do.
I to już byłoby